Good morning, Merge Madrid. I hope you're enjoying this third day of the conference. Um, I have, so far, some great connections, great people, great talks. The one we had just now about the future of digital assets is definitely very interesting. Um, I've had a lot of conversations around the next 10, 100 trillion in value that's going to come on chain, how that's going to be managed. And I'd like to offer you a slightly different take in terms of volume, not so much around value, but around utility. So let's talk about not the next $1 trillion coming on chain, but the next trillion transactions. My name is Martin Coxell. I'm the Director of Growth and Strategic Partnerships at BSV Association. We are a Swiss-based nonprofit, and our aim is to promote the BSV blockchain, which is a version of Bitcoin. The B in BSV stands for Bitcoin, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, and our aim is to have a version of Bitcoin that is scalable and suitable for enterprise use. Now that you've been able to admire my nice QR that you can use to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm going to talk to you about how we can reach 1 trillion transactions on chain in a week. Quick disclaimer, we've not quite done it. We've done it in 2 weeks, but 1 week is our aspirational goal at this stage. So the answer as to how we do it, I think I've already given it away, but the answer is the BSV blockchain, and specifically the new implementation of our mining software called Terranode. I won't get into the specifics, the technical details just yet, but ultimately this new network architecture is how we're going to drive infinite number of transactions. So 1 trillion is an aspirational number, really. It could be much, much more. So before I start with explaining how we did it, or before we start with the why, I'll start with, I'll get to the how afterwards. I'll start with the why because I think it's important to give a bit more context as to why we might even need 1 trillion transactions on chain at any given point. I think if I had to say it in one phrase, I'd say we have a need for trust, right? Blockchain has not convinced, I think, at this stage, even though a lot of people in this room might be convinced of the use of blockchain, crypto. The world at large has not yet been convinced. They haven't seen the true value of it, right? Governments, enterprise companies, they're still not there. They've dipped their toe in, they've tried it, but they have not yet adopted. What we're seeing still today is a dominance of what we often refer to as Web 2 companies. Web 3 is not quite here yet completely. We're getting there. I think everybody in this room qualifies as being in the Web 3 space. But again, most of the people outside of this room, outside of this conference hall, are not there yet. The world is still dominated by players of the Web 2 era. I won't name them, you know who they are. Their stock prices are at the top of any, their stock names are at the top of any stock exchange. So what I want to articulate for you here is that there is a need. There's a need for trust, and that trust comes through the technology, which is blockchain. What we have currently is a process of data processing globally. We have data, we have vast amount of data, trillions of gigabytes, and an exponential amount of data growing over time. That data is refined into information, the information is refined to knowledge, knowledge becomes innovation, and eventually, this is how we receive improvements in our everyday life. We have pain and risk at every single step of the way here, and this is what characterizes Web 2. Web 3 will fix that, as we all know. It will give us decentralized apps. We already have some of those. They are used by a minority of the population globally. And then those apps will give us ownership over data, censorship resistance, and a number of other, I guess, benefits which I think we're all pretty familiar with. So we have a technology, blockchain, which gives us trust. And ultimately, the blockchain landscape for enterprise is where it's most needed. The trustworthiness is inadequate in most companies, and those companies are those that have the highest number of transactions and therefore require the most amount of trust. So the biggest misconception in the way this is represented is, I think the world at large thinks that blockchain is a subcomponent of crypto. But really, it's the other way around. Crypto is the tip of the iceberg. Blockchain and its use cases are effectively the much bigger opportunity here. The benefits of blockchain, I think a lot of you are probably familiar with this already, but it creates trust. I've said it a number of times already. Just go back to the Bitcoin white paper. The word honest is in the white paper about 17 times, I think, and that's where it all started. So that honesty is the trust we ultimately need. Beyond trust, we also need security, right? Secure exchanges, blockchain gives us that. And then, most importantly, I think, data integrity. Without data integrity, we will not have trust. And we will not have true value on the blockchain. So it's a bold new world. A world sometime in the future where blockchain is the underlying technology that powers all our data management. It will give us connected digital identities. It will allow us to have transactions between different AI components and language models that ultimately can be trusted and used to generate value. All these processes are required for enterprise adoption. So we need that trust, and we need to build it at scale. Like I said, enterprise scale is paramount to ultimately have world adoption. We can have, and to have that trust at scale, there's a few key parameters we need to address and have absolutely in any blockchain technology, which is efficient scaling, low transaction costs, resilience, stability, so basically security, sustainability, obviously. The technology needs to be green, needs to be efficient from a carbon footprint standpoint. And we need regulatory compliance. I'm sure you've heard or watched a number of panels around legal considerations like MiCA over the past few days. It's very much at the heart of any crypto blockchain debate at this point. So, we have a solution, which is blockchain. We have real-world challenges, which is how we manage the data and how blockchain is a part of that. Now we get to how we actually put the world on chain. So back to my nice little process design, which I highlighted earlier. We have this technological push of data being transformed all the way to innovation and improvements in everyday life. That's Web 2 with all these pain points of data integrity at every step of the way. We can transform this. Web 3, the same process using blockchain, gives us integrity every step of the way. The data can become information, then knowledge, innovation, and it's all based upon data that we can actually trust. So trust gives us proper transformation. It gives us data we can actually use and improve the world to make it ultimately a better, more optimal place. Ease and security are two keywords here. It has to be easy, has to be secure, otherwise it will not be adopted. So like I said initially, BSV Blockchain offers a solution on how to do this. You can come meet me at the end of the presentation if you'd like to talk about it a bit more. A quick recap of how this happens. I'm sure everybody here knows how, but timestamping is the ultimate feature which enables this trust. We have blocks, and every blockchain, every header contains cryptographic elements from the previous block. This is how we maintain integrity. It's ultimately a ledger with timestamp data. That ledger gives us a unique record of truth. The truth creates the trust. So, now that I've explained the how, or the why we need it quite a bit, let's get to what might actually happen. So I told you about putting a trillion transactions on chain in a week. And the reason we want to do this is 5 years from now, we're probably going to have something like 125 billion digital devices connected worldwide. And that number keeps on scaling and increasing exponentially. As the population grows and then devices grow, so does the amount of data we generate. We do have an issue here, the blockchain trilemma. A lot of people have probably heard about this. The misconception is that you cannot solve for these three aspects on blockchain at the same time. You always have to basically sacrifice one to enable the other two. So sacrifice security to get scalability and decentralization, or vice versa. We believe the trilemma can be solved. We believe the BSV blockchain actually solves it. And the way we solve it is with our network, which is a proof of work network. It's a version of Bitcoin, and a version of Bitcoin that scales. So, back to my question, how do we reach a trillion transactions on chain in a week? And the answer, I think I already gave it, is Terranode. Terranode, our mining software. Terranode, the new network architecture, which we've rebuilt. It has unbounded block size. Currently, our biggest blocks are about 4 gigabytes in size, but eventually they will be completely unbounded. We'll have a limited block size. It's a horizontally scaled and modular blockchain, meaning not every node has to have all the information from the chain, right? Every nodes can be specialized, what we call overlays, and they can function more efficiently. And most importantly, Terranode adheres fully to the Bitcoin white paper. To give you an example of where we are and where we've been, over to the left here, we have the old network architecture, which has been running since 2018 to a few months ago. In the middle here, we have our current network architecture, which is a hybrid model still running partially on the old model and the new one with Terranode. And as of next year, our network will be fully working under the Terranode software, at which point we will reach new unprecedented milestones of scalability. So, you probably heard this from a lot of different chains already, but Terranode can support 1 million transactions per second and more. That's 10 times more than what Visa and MasterCard do per second any day of the year, even in, say, a peak season like, I don't know, Black Friday or other high shopping moments. And if you're curious about the numbers behind all this, the data industry that I'm talking about, the industries that produce the data I'm talking about, are increasing in size. We got a nice little chart here from Statista that shows the rise in volumes of data to the famed 130 billion devices I was talking about earlier. Those industries are producing the data that enter into the process I referred to a couple of times, where we have a transformation of data and we need integrity and trust at every step of the way. So, I've been flaunting the number of trillion transactions on chain for a few minutes now already, and you might be wondering, where can you check this? The fact is, we ran a stress test on our network last year that reached the 1 million transaction per second number. And so we effectively put over 1 trillion transactions, 1.3 trillion exactly, on chain on our stress test network over a period of about 12 days. There's a QR code here. You can scan it and check out the data for yourself if you're curious and want to do your due diligence. But there's more. As of a few weeks ago, we've actually launched Terranode on our mainnet and its own testnet, so you can test it yourself. As you can see, you have a little tweet here from a few weeks ago. You can actually go to our GitHub, download the software, run a Terranode node yourself, and connect to the test network. And last but not least, I think the important part here to mention is Terranode is completely open source. You can test it for yourself. You can also use it. Anybody's open to use it because it's under the open source license of BSV. And that pretty much concludes my presentation. If you're wondering, just how big the potential of this technology is, remember that by the time I'm finished speaking, Terranode will have processed 15 million transactions, and that in itself, I think, is a pretty good achievement. If you'd like to do a little bit more due diligence onto this technology and what it actually can do, you should definitely do your own research. I'd recommend starting here. We published a report last year with the help of the Boston Consulting Group. This QR code will take you there. You can also look into the external audit which was performed and just check it out for yourself. That's about all I have time for today. If there are any questions, I'll be around for a few minutes if you want to chat. Thank you very much.